In the October 31st daily quest, I featured an image that was generated via an app called Arc Welder, enhanced in Illustrator, and further enhanced just a touch in Photoshop, because Photoshop always helps. Now, a couple of differences. Arc Welder is one of the apps within the Generative Launcher folder, but even though Arc Welder, the app, lives inside this folder, you can't launch it from there. You can't launch any of these apps except through this Generative Launcher app when you click on that. Now you want Generative Launcher, if you're going to use these apps, you want this in your dock. So, launch it, right click on the icon, say keep in dock. You know how this works, right? And then when you launch Generative Launcher, it takes a few seconds because it was made to check home and check to see if there were any updates. Where it's looking no longer exists. So the Generative Launcher Updater no longer functions. And because nothing in this folder functions except this app, this is the only time you should go in there. And yeah, I put this app inside your Documents folder, and I have my reasons for doing that. So just trust me. But once you launch this, you have the opportunity. Which app do you want to launch? And from here, after you launch the app, I'm going to tell you how to save files and all that. But you get this documentation link, which no longer exists, because this led to a commercial website which no longer exists. Then view saved images. So if I go into Arc Welder and I view saved images, it opens up a folder for me. That folder is automatically generated outside of the Generative Launcher folder. And inside here are presets, which we haven't talked about yet, and images. And every image comes with a preset, a seed that lets you recreate the image. Pretty darn cool. So here, let me just show you an example. I should always put on my glasses first so I can see what's going on inside the Finder. Here they are. Okay, so this is the Arc Welder image that was generated and saved as a PDF. And, kind of cool. But I knew what I wanted to do with it, or I thought I knew. And out of that came a PSD, which once that loads, you can see it's 500 megs, so it takes a while. Here's one example of what I got out of that. And inside this PSD are lots and lots of layers. So many layers that I had to go to a second PSD. And out of that PSD, generated this image. I kind of dig this. Now, remember, both of these came from this. So you have to, if you're going to use these apps, you have to be able to get a feel for what may and may not work. And I'll give you a clue. Typically, very opaque colors don't work really well. These transparent colors, these low opacity colors, allow for these different shades where there's overlap. And you can get some really interesting effects beyond the base geometry that you can then leverage in Illustrator and Photoshop. Now, I view these apps as, number one, great starter files, but number two, a way to look at Illustrator and Photoshop differently and begin to hack the programs in ways that the creators of Illustrator and Photoshop did not intend. Now, for those of you who are focused on illustration or animation or anything else, go ahead, follow your passion. This is just part of the choice I want to give you in the Mac Lab. These opportunities to use different types of apps in different ways. All right, I'll come back and I'll give you a little primer on how these things work. But to complete this Generative Launcher Quest, I need you to launch all 4 of the apps, play with each one a little bit, and generate one image out of each of these that you like. Okay? It doesn't have to be spectacular, but I don't want it to be a horrible mishmash of terrible colors, just demonstrating you didn't spend much time in the app. You got it? Then there's going to be individual quests where Shapescape, ShapePlane, ArcWelder, and GeoBuilder all give you the opportunity to dive deeper and in repeatable quests that you can then, create some cool imagery that you can repurpose then. Sometimes the imagery itself stands alone. Sometimes it could be a great background for a poster or a t-shirt or something else, and we'll talk more about that later. But there's your quick overview of Generative Launcher. I'm going to come back and show you one of the apps. You should be able to figure out all of them by one. They're different, but I want you to explore. But ArcWelder has something the others don't have, and that's animation. So we'll come back and I'll show you that.